Hi, and on today's video, I'm going to cover off a product I've really wanted to pick up before now, but really haven't had the budget or the time to do so. So what I wanted to do is basically go out and buy myself one of these. And yes, it may look like a turntable, but it certainly isn't. Now what this is the Sonos Amp. If you don't know what one of these is, basically, if you think of the Sonos products, this enables you to connect in different speakers. You could have some bookshelf speakers if that's what you wanted to do, or you could most certainly have them for ceiling speakers, which is what I'm going to use them for. So if you have watched any of my other videos where I've kind of panned around my room a little bit, you may have noticed I've got a couple of Yamaha speakers that have sat in ceiling speakers that have sat there for some time, which I used to use as part of my Dolby Atmos setup, which I did discontinue a little while back. Probably a couple of years ago. So those speakers are sat there being a little bit idle. I've plugged in a Bluetooth amp from time to time, but I'll be honest, the quality was never good enough. What I wanted to do is bring this in line with my Sonos infrastructure. So I have been looking at one of these. Now, the challenge is, if you look for a brand new one, these are around £699, or very cheapest I've found is $649. So translating to the US market, you're probably still looking at around $699, which is a lot of money, to be honest. But the beauty of this is you can run up to 4 speakers off it. Now, the way you run 4 speakers is you run it in parallel. So you'd have 2 speakers running off there. Now, it does support a maximum of 8 ohms. If you're going to do that, you'd need 2 sets of 4 ohm speakers. Fortunately, my ceiling ones are 8. Not a big problem because I only wanted this amp to run those. So that's fine. What I'm going to do now is just switch over to a different camera view so I can kind of show you a little bit more about the product, and then we'll summarise my review of the Sonos. Okay, so let's talk about this Sonos Amp. So, like I said, it does actually look like a turntable when you look at it. It's a nice little design. To give you an idea of the width, we're talking around about just under 9 inches that way, and I think it'll be about the same that way. Yeah, so again, it's about 9 inches wide for imperial, but if you want to do metric, we're talking around 23 centimeters roughly. If you look at the back, what we have on the back, and I have deliberately put a couple of the banana plugs back in so you can kind of see how this works, but we've got a power, a sync button, HDMI for your ARC. It's not eARC, but it's certainly got ARC technology. You've got RCA in, so line in, sub out, so for an active sub. Obviously, if you're using the Sonos sub, you connect a different way. You've got an Ethernet in and an Ethernet out. And like I said, when I put these into my Ubiquiti, it only registered at 100 meg. That might just be auto sense though, so I'll go away and check that. And then you've got these, which if you've got standard banana plugs that you already want to use, you can just plug them straight in. However, Sonos provide you with these wonderful devices which act as like makeshift banana plugs. So just get that into focus, and all it's got is a banana plug end and a twist cap which fits in there. Really useful. On the bottom, again, you've got a kind of turntable look, but it's designed so that they can sit in there. And on the front, you've got play and pause, several little mode buttons, and an LED light. But that's really all there is to it. It's quite a heavy device. Probably weighs, just to the touch, probably about 1.5 kilograms, I would say. So just have a quick scoot sheet around the Sonos website, and yeah, I am on the American version, but that's just so I can hit both of my demographics. I generally get a lot of my viewers are from the US or the UK, so I wanted to make sure I've got you both covered. Now, what I mentioned earlier is 125 watts per channel, so that's quite a decent amount. It does support Apple AirPlay 2. Obviously, it will work with the likes of Spotify, Tidal, all of those that will kind of fit into the Sonos infrastructure. You can obviously use it for radio stations as well. It does have a line in and HDMI ARC. However, it's not eARC, which is just a little bit of a disappointment. But then maybe that will be a future, consideration from Sonos. Does enable you to have touch controls, but like I said, mine is definitely mounted in a certain space. And how they kind of advertise it a little bit is with a turntable. So if you think of it that way, that probably has got a very good selling point from that perspective. Also with the ability to use it with the TV. Now, if you do pair this with Sonos's inbuilt either wall or ceiling speakers, you do get some additional functionality when you can use their environmental true acoustic solution to go around your room, and it will basically be able to pick out the soundscape of your room and then tailor the speakers to do so. However, please be warned that the Sonos speakers inbuilt are around $599 each, I believe. So not particularly cheap. You can see here, like I mentioned, they do have that ability to stack quite nicely into a rack, and that kind of shows you how the connectivity works. It is a really, really, really nice product. So that kind of shows you the range, and they've got a couple of new kind of bits on the block. I might look at this sub actually for this office when I get round to it, but I've certainly owned one of these Beam 2s. I've got definitely got one of those, and the original sub. The rears I've got are Sonos ones, but they're not these new type. So, but they are. Now, if you needed to understand the tech specs, they kind of sit here. I'm not going to read them out to you, but this true play is what I was talking about using that architectural space to pull through and build out that element. Dimensions, again, are there. I actually guessed the weight as about 1.5, so I wasn't too far off. That's not a bad guess, really, to be honest. It only comes in matte black. There are the height and dimensions. I was being a little bit kind. And then the power and connectivity. So one thing I'm really, I did see this, didn't I? I did mention that it does seem to only address as a 100 megabit port, which is really, really disappointing for me. But yeah, there we go. In the box, that's what you'll get. So the Sonos banana plugs are built into the back. You get the power cable, and there you go. So there we are. That's my review of the Sonos Amp. Now, is it worth the money? It's difficult. It's quite a lot of money, isn't it, to be honest, for a small box, which is realistically an amp. There are other alternatives out there. I know Yamaha do a streaming box that's probably around $299. I'll put the link for that in the description as well if you want to go and have a look at that. I did consider it. However, I'm already invested massively in the Sonos infrastructure, so I didn't really want to move away. Now, I currently own a Sonos Arc, a couple of free beams, a few Sonos ones, a sub, and a Sonos Roam, and now this device. So as you can see, I'm already really integrated into that Sonos infrastructure. So for me to move away would have been very difficult. Like I said, I had previously used some kind of Bluetooth solution to do powering those speakers, but it wasn't the best. Now, what I might do is, because this supports a sub, albeit I can connect in Sonos sub itself wirelessly, it does also have an RCA out. So what I could in theory do, or a sub out, what I could in theory do is buy an active amp and power it that way. So it does open a few more possibilities, because let's be honest, the Sonos sub is a lot of money. So I might go and have a look around. I used to have a really, really nice tannoy one, so I'm going to just have a look around eBay and see if I can pick up a nice little sub to do the job. Because it probably does lose and lack a little bit of bass. Now, it might be my speakers. They are obviously ceiling speakers. They're not designed to be the bassiest, because, let's be honest, you're not going to want your floor shaking to bits. But acoustically, the trebles are amazing. The actual sound output from the Sonos is kind of in line with what you'd expect from a Sonos product. It has a maximum of 125 watts, which is more than enough for what it's going to do and achieve for me. I really want it for kind of an acoustic feeling in here. Now, I can set this up different ways, because obviously it's got the HDMI ARC, so I could in theory wire my TV in and have it run my TV audio, which is a potential opportunity I'm thinking about. Or I could just use it, as I'm going to for now, for the, the standard audio out, because it does an absolutely fine job on that. Now, it does have a Ethernet in and out. However, when I connected it in, I did notice it was only getting 100 megabits. Now, it might be because my switch and the Sonos can't talk natively properly, so I'll do a little bit more digging on that to understand if it is a gigabit, because that would be a real damn shame if obviously you're passing a gigabit network in and you're only getting 100 out. But for a Sonos device, does it really need to be a gigabit? No, but it's really to do with the pass-through element. What a product though. It's something like I've been really keen to do. And the great thing is, if you are running it in a rack mount like I am, you'll notice this deliberate indent here and the deliberate there, and that is so you can stack them. Now, if you put them in a 19-inch rack, you can get 2 side by side. So in theory, you can get 2 that way, and then another 2 on top, and easily stack 4. So depending on your system, you'd realistically want them all wired back here. Now, what might I do in the future? I definitely will probably invest in more of these, because when I redo my kitchen, I'll probably stick ceiling speakers in there and have the whole kitchen powered by one of these bad boys. But what I'll look at is obviously 4 ohm speakers, and probably get the 4 in there to spread it around acoustically. But yeah, really, really recommend it. It is pricey. However, go and have a look at the used market if you can't, if you don't want to put out that much, because from time to time you certainly see people will shop around and obviously decide to move on from Sonos, or if they're just wanted a change or something slightly different. I managed to pick mine up for about 200 quid under the RRP, just because some guy had moved his kitchen around, and he was using it for his kitchen and no longer needed it, because if people move home they might not need it anymore. So yeah, fantastic. Stay tuned and we'll do a lot more of these videos, but I would massively recommend the Sonos Amp. Cheers.